The White House is taking a victory lap this morning after adding 3 sweeping new trade deals to the books. President Trump announced some of the details on social media. The 3 countries to beat the clock and reach an agreement before that August 1st deadline are the Philippines, Indonesia, and the United States' 5th largest trading partner, Japan. So what's in the agreement? The president says the Philippines is going to open market with the U.S. with 0 tariffs. In return, the country will only pay a 19% tariff. That's just shy of the 20% proposed by the White House earlier this month. Indonesian products are also set to face a 19% tariff, with U.S. products facing almost no tariffs in return. As for Japan, they'll invest $550 billion in the U.S. They'll also open their country to trade, including items like cars, trucks, and rice, and they'll pay a 15% tariff. The president posted on social media again this morning saying, "I will always give up tariff points if I can get major countries to open their markets to the USA." Another great power of tariffs, but without them, it would be impossible to get countries to open up. Always 0 tariffs to America. So to break down how these deals came about, let's bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. Weijia, thank you for joining us today. Can you walk us through the process to secure these agreements and just how significant each of these deals are?
Well, remember, it was April 2nd, I should say, that Trump announced these reciprocal tariffs. So that was several months ago. And since then, many discussions, a lot of diplomacy has had to unfold in order to get any trade deal. And so the president's top advisors and negotiators on this have obviously been meeting with their counterparts in all 3 of these countries, hashing out the details of the deal before President Trump ultimately agrees to it and signs it along with the leaders of the other countries. And these are significant, especially with regard to Japan, because as you mentioned, it is one of the U.S.'s largest trading partners. And when the president says he has opened up the trade market, what he means is that for American-made products going into these countries, he claims that the tariff rate is going to be 0%. So those countries don't have to pay extra to buy American goods, which he says will really help American companies. And then when it comes to, their items coming into the U.S., these rates are lower than expected. But what's key here is that they're still higher than they were than when Trump took office. And so the concern is that ultimately it's U.S. consumers who have to pay that tariff.
So I want to turn to this because President Trump, he unleashed some very serious claims at former President Barack Obama in the Oval Office just yesterday. And now we're getting a rare response from the office of the former president. Weijia, what did he have to say?
So this is all about the investigations into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. And President Trump is claiming that former President Barack Obama should be charged with treason because of the handling. And you're right, we do have a new statement from Obama's spokesman who says that this is these are bizarre allegations. He called them ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction, adding that nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election. Now, that is, of course, just part of the statement. Of the full statement you are seeing on your screen. Now, remember, the Russian interference issue with the election has been a sensitive one for President Trump. Because he has often called it a witch hunt and a hoax to even suggest that there was any interference. But really, Mugo, the president started talking about this more yesterday when he was asked about something he does not want to talk about, and that is the Jeffrey Epstein case. So as we learn more about this story, the Obama camp is claiming that really they're only bringing it up to take attention away from the Epstein case.
Yes, and let's stay there because, as you mentioned, that's a headline that just doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon for the president. Jeffrey Epstein, obviously CNN had some exclusive reporting. So how is the president responding to that new reporting?
Well, CNN's reporting includes new videos that have never been seen before that claim to confirm Epstein attended Trump's wedding back in 1993 to Marla Maples. There's also another video clip of them speaking intimately at another event. So what that new reporting, if it is accurate, would confirm is really just the closeness of the relationship between Epstein and President Trump. Of course, the president has tried to downplay their relationship, and this will likely beg a lot of questions about, if they weren't actually that close, why Epstein attended his wedding. But so far, the president has not responded, and neither has the White House to that. But we know that, more broadly speaking, he believes that this renewed interest in the case he has called also a witch hunt and a hoax. They have pointed out consistently that there's actually nothing new in the case. These documents were available for Democrats to release, and they never did. So that is why he claims that this really is a manufactured story that should not receive this much attention. But remember, it was his own administration, his own Attorney General Pam Bondi, who really unfolded all of this when she claimed she had bombshell revelations in this case.
And of course, that's why so many people are asking for that revelation. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang, thank you so much for your reporting today.